Hello, Garland Nixon here, and it appears that the Western media may have discovered that there's a smidgen of corruption going on in Ukraine. Let's talk. Hello, Garland here, back from the beautiful area of the world, and let's chat about what's happening now. So you may have heard that there's a bit of a corruption scandal going on in Ukraine. Um, okay, I don't even know how to put this. It's clear that there's something afoot here. Everyone knew that Ukraine was a basket of corruption, that it was nothing but corruption. Come on, we go back to Hunter Biden. These neoliberal freaks overthrew the government of Ukraine and started stealing everything that's not everything that wasn't nailed down, and most of the things that were nailed down. And then, of course, they armed the Nazis and they said, let's heave this pile of sewage at the Russians. That's basically what they did. They just been there for I don't know how long. They've been building up the Nazis. They've been arming the Nazis. They got a lump of sewage and they threw a lump of sewage at Russia. Now, I'm not saying a lump of sewage to denigrate the Ukrainian people. They are victims. And to say they're victims would be an understatement because they're literally kidnapping victims now of the US and the British Empire. But they're victims. Wherein the US came in and they brainwashed people. They brought in the Nazis that they had stored in Canada and in the US for these years so they could get all of their stuff together, get their Nazi war machine built up in Ukraine and heave it at the Russians. And of course, the Russians did what they always do with the Nazi war machine. They tore it to stinking shreds, right? Okay. So now for some reason, as defeat becomes glaringly obvious, now it appears there's some kind of game going on where they finally figured out that there is a gambling going on at the chicken farm, right? Okay, now let's take a look and let's take a little peep about what we got here. We're going to look at a couple of articles together, you and I. Let's start here. All right. Top Zelensky aide facing imminent firing. Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky could fire his influential chief of staff Andrei Yermak as a full-scale riot unfolds within parliament over a vast corruption scandal that allegedly links Yermak to roughly $100 million kickback scheme in the country's energy sector. $100 million indeed. $100 million indeed. Part of one of the things they're doing here is they're trying to I guess acknowledge that there was corruption when it appears that they're going to but that they're going to lose the war and it may come out what's going on. And so instead they're like 100 million. 100 million is pennies. That's like the money that you'll find under your sofa as compared to the amount of money that's been stolen, right? Ukraine's anti-corruption authorities alleged earlier this month that Timur Mindich, a former business partner of Zelensky, and several other officials pressured contractors working with the state nuclear operator to hand over 10 to 15% of their contract value as kickbacks. Mindich was not the only figure. Opposition MP Yaroslav, whatever you pronounce that, alleged that wiretap recordings from Mindich's circle implied that Yermak, reportedly going under a moniker Alibaba, was aware of activity to the scheme. Aware of activity to the scheme? He was aware. Well, I guess you could say he was aware in that he was involved in it, filling his filthy, stinking pockets with American dollars, right? With our money, it was going there. They're stealing it, and now their National Anti-Corruption Bureau has figured it out. Wow, they sure are good, huh? They figured out that there's criminal activity, something that we have been screaming about since before the war. But since before the special military operation, And the whole time we were like, hey, there are a bunch of thieving criminals stealing it. No, you're a Putin lover. I guess. Then Naboo, I guess their pictures will all be on the Miro Vets website as Putin bots or Putin lovers. The anti-corruption authorities, indeed. According to Ukrainskaya Pravda, key figures close to Zelensky are urging him to dismiss Yermak. A source in Zelensky's servant of the People Party, the paper, that it's easier to name those in parliament who are not demanding Yermak's resignation. Yeah, and it's easier to name those who are not filling their pockets and making just as much. They are trying to pretend now. They're trying to pretend that there's somebody in Ukraine who's not a crook. They're trying to pretend that they're digging through and they're finding all the criminal activity, and they're going to start, get out of here. Get out of here. So that's what we got, right? And it says there are people that saying that, members of the servant of the People Party had issued an ultimatum to Zelensky insisting Yermak must be removed or they would leave the faction. Well, they don't need to call him. They need to call London and talk to their bosses in MI6 because he's not in charge of a damn thing. And right now, this whole thing's a fraud. But let us continue. This whole thing's a fraud because all of Ukraine is a fraud. The whole thing's a fraud. Okay. Now, gee, I wonder, could any Americans be involved in miscreant activity and maybe sharing some of the thievery? And there goes Mike Pompeo. Ukrainian military firm tapped ex-Trump staffer AP. Mike Pompeo has been hired as an advisor for Firepoint, which faces scrutiny in connection with the recent massive embezzlement scheme. Now listen to this. Former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has joined the Ukrainian military contractor Firepoint's advisory board while the company is being probed by anti-graft authorities. Think about this. Think about what I just said, what they just said here, right? What they said is they're being probed by anti-graft authorities. In other words, let me go back to Burisma. Burisma was being investigated for illegal activity, and they hired Hunter Biden, and then Hunter Biden's dad got him out of it. Oh, wait a minute. This company is in trouble for some kind of graft, and so they hire Mike Pompeo to get him out of that. Let me find something real quick. Mike Pompeo. Watch this. This is not. What is this? Mike, I'm trying to find it. This was a while back. Let me see. Okay, let's go back. This is Mike Pompeo a while back, just to show you what kind of criminality we're dealing with. Let's go back here. Mike Pompeo lands lucrative post-Trump deals, including multi-million-dollar Ukraine gig, right? Okay. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has racked up a string of lucrative directorships since leaving his office, the Post can reveal, including a multi-million-dollar gig with Ukraine's top cell phone operator, right? The 61-year-old joined the boards of Kyivstar and Vion in November 23 and 24, respectively. Pompeo is paid $50,000 a month or $600,000 a year for strategic and financial advice and engaging with relevant Ukrainian, U.S., and U.K. stakeholders. Pompeo's Delaware-based impact investments firm was also handed stock warrants worth $16 million and a $3 million bonus in connection with successful completion of strategic transactions. So here's the bottom line. Pompeo, who served as America's top diplomat during the final 33 months, it's right here. Let me make it a little easier. Pompeo, who served as America's top diplomat during the final 33 months of Trump's first term, also demanded an eye-watering $300,000 from a Ukrainian charity that helps wounded veterans to appear in Kiev in April 2023, right? So we see, here's a guy, Mike Pompeo. He takes $300,000 from a Ukrainian charity back in April of 2023. He then gets a job making millions from a Ukrainian a cell phone company, right? This was a while back. Okay, and they're paying him $600,000 a year, and he got a $16 million in stocks and a $3 million bonus, right? So this guy's raking in millions, and now voila, Mike Pompeo has been hired as an advisor. So this guy is in Ukraine, stealing everything that ain't nailed down again. Mike Pompeo is going, think about this. And it's something I've said a while back if you watch this channel. When the US government overthrows a country, the vultures go in and these politicians steal everything that ain't nailed down. Remember Mike Pompeo? Mike Pompeo, one of the things he quotes he's known for saying is, when I was in the CIA, he said, we lied, we cheated, we stole, we even had classes on it, right? And what is he doing now? This is Mike Pompeo. Millions from a charity, millions from a cell phone company, which I don't know if you remember it. It's kind of funny though. Mike Pompeo signed a deal with the Russian, with this Ukrainian cell phone company, and like within days, the Russians sent the missile in and blew it to hell, right? So it's like, oh yeah, we'll fix you. It was hilarious. They hit him with a couple of Iskander missiles and obliterated the cell phone company like within days after Pompeo signed. But that's just coincidence, I'm sure. And anyway, so there we go. Here's Pompeo doing his thing. Ukrainian anti-corruption agency, so they go into that. The defense contractor is bringing prominent industry figures on board before opening a factory in Denmark, right? The major Ukrainian drone producer is also currently facing a long-running corruption investigation into alleged kickback schemes, right? Okay, so what happens? Mike Pompeo now joins a company that's being investigated for corruption. What's the point in Ukraine? Let's be honest about this. Is there any point in investigating any company for corruption? The entire Ukrainian project is nothing but a corrupt scam. There's thievery, there's lying, there's a spookery afoot where the CIA, you look, when Hunter Biden joined Burisma, you know who else joined Burisma? A guy named Cofer Black, who was like the head of counter terrorism operations or something for the CIA. Everybody was getting their fair share, brother. They all were just getting their fair share. So now, okay, so Pompeo's over there stealing everything he can. And this is, okay, so it's our money being stolen. You and I, our friggin' money is being stolen, right? Here's the beauty. This is what really makes me feel happy. Times of Israel. Mindich, the guy's name is Timur Mindich. He's the guy who's in trouble, who's, they're coming to him for stealing $100 million, blah, blah, blah. Zelensky, associated crux of Ukrainian corruption case, said to have fled to Israel. Legal proceedings expected to take place in absentia against entertainment tycoon Timur Mindich, who is accused of masterminding a $100 million embezzlement plot at state companies. This is the Times of Israel. That's a criminal right here. Before the revelation of a multi-million-dollar investment and kickback scandal involving Ukraine's state nuclear energy company brought his name to the forefront, Timur Mindich was a shadowy presence, navigating deals moving behind the scenes with unseen influence, known to many, yet rarely spoken of. Mendich, as you're going to find this, reportedly fled to Israel amid a probe of his growing influence within the country's lucrative industries and fears that his access was facilitated by his ties to Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. You think? You think? Zelensky's got a mansion in Israel also. He'll probably flee there. The two were once business partners. And Mendich's influence has expanded since Zelensky was elected in 2019. So let me get this straight, if I may. This is Zelensky's boy. He steals, gets caught. 100. They're saying 100 million. That is a joke. None of those guys stole $100 million. In fact, none of those jokers, they would be embarrassed for a paltry, measly $100 million. All of the billions of dollars are coming in there. Rumors has it that they found like $100 million and it was wrapped in like U.S. government Federal Reserve paper, that like cash that came over there, that it was, they just took the American money as it was, right? The full extent of Mendich's influence was exposed this week when Ukraine's anti-corruption watchdog, what a fraud. There's no anti-corruption watchdog. That's why this whole thing needs to be closely watched. Released the findings of a 15-month investigation accusing him of being the mastermind behind a $100 million embezzlement scheme involving top officials. Look, let's start here. When Sam Bankman-Fried's scam crypto company fell, one of the things they found out was that we were sending money to Ukrainian government, and they were like, we must buy weapons because we got to fight and stand up against Russia. Ooh, we got to buy more and more weapons. But somewhere they decided to invest in crypto. Isn't that interesting? We're sending literally hundreds of billions of dollars to those criminals, and they're buying crypto. Why? Why are they buying crypto? I think we know why they're buying crypto, because then you can't trace which wallet it went to. The money's going into Ukraine. They're going to Sam Bankman-Fried's crooked company, which opened 20 days after Joe Biden took office, right? So we're sending money to Ukrainian government. They're buying crypto and, of course, cashing it right out. You know that. They're buying money and cashing it out. This thing was a scam from the beginning. Two top Ukrainian government ministers have resigned. Of course, they're walking away with billions of dollars. What do they care? Mendich's rise to power is closely tied to his privileged relationship with the president and Zelensky's inner circle. Yes, and everybody was getting their fair share. Yes, everybody's getting their fair share. Everybody. Look, I don't know if you were following this, but at some point, the CIA chief Burns under Biden went to Ukraine to complain about how much they were stealing. He went there and was like, hey, come on, guys. I know you got to steal a good percentage of it, but you're getting more than your fair share. Mendich was born in eastern Ukraine city of Dnipro. A 2013 Dnipro Jewish community birthday message to his mother identified her as a member of the community. His father died in Israel in 2006. Married in 2010. He went in a 4-day event near the Western Wall in Jerusalem with 500 guests. His wife is the daughter of a Russian retail executive, one of the most powerful women in Russia, in Russian fashion, who died in 2019. Now think about this. He was co-owner of Zelensky's production company, Kaval 95, named for the comedy troupe that helped catapult the Ukrainian president to fame as a comedian before he entered politics. So he was Zelensky's partner in crime, literally. A relative of Leonid Mendich, who was arrested by Ukraine's anti-corruption watchdogs in June trying to flee the country, charged with embezzling $16 million from an electric company. These people are a bunch of shysters and crooks. That's who they are. Let's not pretend otherwise. And think about this. This is the really sad and pathetic part of this thing. Why is Israel living so high on the hog? You know, there are all of these settlers in Israel who don't work. They live in settlements. The money for the settlements comes from the United States. These settlers live in the settlements. They don't work. The United States, they got the education free, home, everything free. The only thing they do is stay alive in the settlements, raise families, have kids. They got healthcare. They got everything. Wouldn't work in a pie factory. Wouldn't work in a donut factory biting holes. And they're living in a settlement. And we are footing the bill. That's the settlers. And they're running around beating the hell out of everybody, burning cars. These people are lunatics. They're running around the street. Every time I stink and turn around, I got to watch something that says, yeah, it's a bunch of settlers went to the town of Nablus or whatever. I don't know what these went to a town in the West Bank and beat some American citizen to death and burned his car and his family. These people are freaking lunatics, and we are paying every dime of it. Every penny. They'll work. They don't. Why should they work? Think about this. If America would just send you money and all you had to do is go around and be involved in criminality and tell everybody that you were better than they are and just beat the crap out of people. Hey, Garland, what do you do for a living? Nothing. I just kind of hang out and, you know, live in this settlement. Oh, really? And what do you do in your spare time? I find innocent civilians and beat them within an inch of their life. We kill some of them. We hang them. We burn their family. We cut down their olive trees, you know, stuff like that. And what do you do for a living again? Nothing. I live off you, sucker. Shut up. Your roads in America, they're crap. Colleges, nobody can afford it. Everything's overpriced. You got no health care. Your country is going to hell. But what do I care? I'm a settler. That money that should be going to your roads, your schools, your kids, it's my money. Shut up. I got your money. And I'm going to keep getting your money. And there's nothing you can do about it. I'm sorry. You can't vote your way out of this one. Vote for a Republican. You know what they're going to say? Ted Cruz is going to say? Ted Cruz is going to say, you know why I went to Congress? To represent Israel. He literally said that. Mr. Patriotic, stand with America, America first. And why did you go to Congress, Ted Cruz? That represent Israel. And you know something? I got to say this about Ted Cruz. You're doing a hell of a job, buddy. The thing that you went to Congress for, you're doing it. Representing Israel. Oh, but you can always vote for the Republicans. I mean, for the Democrats. It just came out that this Democrat in the House when there was hearings going on, she was texting back and forth with the Israeli spy, Jeffrey Epstein, Israel/MI6 spy. She's texting back and forth. What do I need to say? How do I say it? Oh, how can I get in another shot at Trump? She was texting her masters. And you know, he's nothing but an Israeli spy. So the issue of Zionism, it's part of the empire's criminal international input. I mean, a network. That's all it is. It's part of the international network, okay, of criminality. That's what it is. And now think about this. This is just beautiful. It's not bad enough. It's not bad enough that a bunch of lazy ass settlers are sitting on their butts, spending our money, beating innocent people to death. These Zionists, they're lunatics. Okay. And at the same time, we send billions of dollars to Ukraine. Some guy in Ukraine steals it. And for whatever reason, you know, this is all a scam, but okay, let's just play along with this scam for a minute. Play along with this crap. The guy steals hundreds of millions of dollars. You know, it's been billions, of course. He's Zelensky's right-hand man. Whatever. Now, because it's convenient, they knew he was stealing it all along, but because it's convenient, they got to arrest him. He goes to Israel. Now, why would he flee to Israel? What difference would that make? Did you know that you flee to Israel? If you are a Jewish person, you can flee to Israel. I imagine some Jewish people probably can't. Probably a Jewish person I bet you this, they won't let Medea Benjamin or some Max Blumenthal, they won't let him do it. I can bet you that. That's for sure. But at any rate, because this guy's part of the imperial crime spree, We send money, our hard-earned money goes over there to Ukraine, to the Nazis. He steals it. Somebody knocks on his door. Hey, Mendich, come out. We know you stole the money. Mendich, are you in there? Hello, Mendich. Walk in the door. He's not here. Call him. Hey, Mendich, are you there? I'm sorry. The party you are calling has fled to Israel and will not be extradited. So you're out of freaking luck. I don't care. They've got people in Israel who are pedophiles, raping kids. They got people in India. I saw this thing about one time I watched it. You might have seen it. This article about this guy who murdered his wife or girlfriend or something like this. And I think it was somewhere in the Northeast, like New York, New Jersey. Murderer. He goes to Israel. It's over. That's all he has to do. He gets into Israel. Doesn't matter what the crime is. He could have raped him. This guy could be a serial killer. If Son of Sam and Ted Bundy and what's the guy that ate people, all of them together, if they'd have like all of them, if they'd have been Jewish, if they'd have gotten a plane and they'd have got in Israel, is what it is. Think about this. The morality of what Zionism has become, of what Zionism is. Hey, I've always said this. What would you do if you had a brother and you found out your brother was a serial killer? I'd turn him in before you could kill again. I wouldn't go like, hey, he's my brother. Quick, hide him in the basement before the cops get him. What kind of moral position would that be? He's my brother. Yeah, he's out here because of serial killing innocent women. He killed a whole troop of cheerleaders, but he's my brother. Got to keep him out of trouble. No, he should pay the price. However, if you get to Israel, there ain't no price to pay. They ain't going to extradite you. And the United States is not going to say, hey, Israel, we're going to tariff or sanction you if you don't give up those murderers and rapists and thieves. Nope. No problem. Israel, do what you want. That's it. Boy. And the Zionism's argument is they should have privileges because they're the chosen people. That's the Zionist argument, which let me say this. Zionism ain't Judaism because there's all these Christian Zionists running around. Zionism is fascism. It ain't Judaism. And so now see, here's the other issue. If I say, look, I don't care what crime you commit, you can come to my house, you can stay here and I won't turn you in. I attract criminals, don't I? I attract all the criminals around the world. If I had a ranch and I said, I don't care what crime you committed, you can come to my ranch, stay here, and nobody can get you and take you away. Then what's going to happen? The criminals around the world, or the word will get out. Hey, criminals, everybody, all my criminal friends, yes, look, after you go out and murder, rape, and pillage, yeah, go to Garland's place. You'll be good there. So what you create is a country that's populated by some of the worst criminals on earth because they all know you just got to get there. I ain't saying that everybody in Israel is a criminal, but it's kind of a criminal country because Zionism is the personification of criminality. But when you literally say, I don't care what crime you commit, you come here, you're good, tells you a lot about that country. And it is an embarrassment to Judaism. It's not Judaism. It is an embarrassment. It is a black mark on Judaism. But this guy knew something. He knew. Now, here's the next question. How does the U.S. let that happen? He stole money. And the position of the U.S. is, oh, well, hey, he stole money. Yeah, we sent it to Ukraine anyway. It was already, if you think about it, it was already stolen. They sent it to Ukraine. So in a way, I can argue that money was counted out already because it was like we stole it. If you send it to Ukraine, consider it stolen. Because the second it hits Kiev, it's on the skids going to some oligarch's Cayman Island bank account. That's done. So what's the point really of worrying about who stole it? Here's the issue. The issue is not whether it was going to be stolen once it went to Ukraine. The only question was who was going to steal it. That's all, not whether. You know it's stolen. The issue is who gets the loot, who gets the money. And apparently Mindich. And you know, he's Zelensky's boy. You know Zelensky got his fair share. You know he got a cut out of that. And now we as Americans got to take a double whammy. You steal our money, which is ours, but we don't have it is, but it isn't. In that since our government doesn't work for us, it's not ours. But you steal our money, and then we say, hey, you stole our money. That's okay. We're going to this other proxy force of yours, Israel, and where we can't be held accountable. So now what you have is you've got the place where you send the money to be stolen. And then after it's stolen, you got the place where the thief goes so he can't be held accountable. And we're financing both of them. We're financing the place where the money gets stolen, and we're financing the place where the criminal goes so he can't be held accountable for stealing the money, which only tells you one thing. It takes us back to Mike Pompeo, doesn't it? Takes you right back to U.S. elites and political class going to Kyiv and getting their fair share. So as long as the Mike Pompeos, the Bidens of the world, Pelosi's kids, Romney's kids, as long as the corrupt progeny of the ruling elite and the Pompeos and these other scumbags of the world, as long as they can go to Israel, probably that too, as long as they can go to Ukraine and they can steal their share of our money that it goes over there, they're perfectly fine with Mindich. First of all, can they go after Mindich? You know he knows who else was stealing. You know he knows which Americans were stealing, and he ain't mad for leaving. He's probably like, look, we're losing the war. The Russians might come nab me. I'll be held accountable for being a criminal, and the Russians will probably string me up or something or give me 50 years in the gulags, so I might as well get the hell out of here. Look, first of all, Mindich sees the writing on the wall that Ukraine's falling. He's getting the hell out anyway. He took a sack of money. He transferred billions, no doubt, into Israeli bank accounts. And he went over there. And you know what? The U.S. ain't mad because they're like, yeah, well, at least you moved into Israel bank accounts. That's fine. We're good. They don't care. It's hard. What do they care? You know, there reminds me of my daughter. Let me tell you a story of my daughter when she was a teenager. Kind of spoiled her. So one day, she's in a room and in her room playing with whatever she's playing with. And I saw doing, I don't know, playing music or something. This was years ago. And I'm watching TV and I see this advertisement. And keep in mind, you know, I'm a police officer. I'm not a rich man. I'm a middle class blue collar guy. And I see this advertisement and it says MAC makeup available in whatever that Nordstrom. And I'm like, and I'm seeing this advertisement. They're showing all this stuff. And I went in and I said, hey, call my daughter. She says, what? I said, you ever heard of MAC makeup? She goes, yeah, it's all I use. And I'm like, I said, but it's sold in Nordstrom. Isn't it kind of expensive? Her exact answer, yeah, it's your money. What do I care? Right? That was her exact answer. I'm not making that up. Right? And I was just like, and I realized, yeah, but she's kind of the boss. So what am I going to say? You know what I mean? Spoiled to death. I'm like, yeah, okay. What am I going to say? You know, that's my here. What is my point here? That's the point of Ukraine and Israel. They could say the same thing to Garland and the rest of us. It's your money. What do I care? Hey, Pompeo's stealing it. Yeah, he's stealing your money. Mindich, and he went to Israel. Idiot. He's stealing your money. What does the government care? They're getting their share. Pompeo's getting his. What, you think Narco Rubio? You think old Narco doesn't realize what time it is? You think Narco's not going to be like, hey, I think I'm going to get involved in oil investing. And perhaps we can overthrow the government of Ukraine and not get a piece of that. You think Narco Rubio ain't up to that? See, here's the thing. They're saying that Venezuela, I said, I don't know if I said Ukraine, I meant Venezuela. They're saying Venezuela is involved in drug trafficking. Here's the reality. It ain't yet. No, Venezuela is not involved in drug trafficking yet. But if the United States is able to seize control of it, if the CIA gets its mitts on it, oh, it will be involved in drug trafficking. It just ain't yet. I don't think they're going to be able to get their mitts on Venezuela, but their plan is to get their mitts on Venezuela, and then it will be involved if they could get their mitts on it, which they can't, in my opinion. But see, you see what I'm saying? Because they're criminals. And now the guy's stealing money. Look, first of all, let me show you something. If you think that this is some kind of an anomaly, so perhaps you might remember this story. Senior Israeli official flees U.S. after pedophilia arrest, sparking debate over Israeli impunity. And what country did he go to again? Let's take a look. In another example, what many claim to be Israel's undue influence over the U.S., the senior Israeli official facing serious pedophilia charges fled the country after being arrested in a law enforcement sting operation in Nevada. Tom Artyom Alexandrovich, 38, a high-ranking figure in Israel's National Cyber Directory, an agency operating under the direct supervision of Prime Minister Netanyahu's office, was arrested by Las Vegas police during a multi-agency investigation targeting online child predators. He was one of 8 individuals apprehended as part of a sting. He was charged with felony offense of luring a child with a computer for sex acts and later released on $10,000 bail. He subsequently returned to Israel, prompting questions about how and why a foreign national accused of such a crime was allowed to leave the U.S. before facing trial. Okay, so what happened? This friggin' guy, an Israeli official, is chasing children. Oh, what a shock in this day and age. The members of the ruling elite trying to have sex with children. So he gets caught in the U.S. And as I understand it, I don't know this for sure, but there is great suspicion that the Trump administration aided and abetted this guy. So he's trying to lure children online to have sex, and the Trump administration helps him get the hell out of this country, and he's in Europe. I mean, and he's in Israel. It's probably back in his position. He'll never be held accountable for that crime. Israel's become a criminal. I mean, it's nothing but a place where pedophiles. So we know they got pedophiles fleeing there. They got murderers fleeing there. They got corruptions and thieves. And you wonder why this country's all screwed up. Because they let it's a hive of scum and villainy. Okay, so that's all it is now. It's a hive of scum and villainy, of pedophiles, of the petty thieves and pirates. And they steal our loot or try to diddle our kids and get them the hell out of here and go to Israel. And we're like, hey, that's not a good idea. And the government's like, we'll help them. Because you don't get any say in it. That's what we're up against. That's what we're dealing with now. And what's happening? Mike Pompeo. That's why. Because guess what? Rubio knows when he gets out, if he does what he's supposed to do, and he helps the Israelis hide their pedophiles, pirates, thieves, and criminals, that when he gets out, it'll be his turn. That he'll be the next Mike Pompeo. That's what they all want to be, the next Mike Pompeo. When they get out and get finished, they get their fair share. In the same way that the Kiev government's doing that, that's all they're doing. It's like everybody got to get their fair share, brother. We're all just trying to eat. Don't hate. That's where they are. So that's it. That's what we're up against. A bunch of stinking criminals in broad daylight stealing everything that's nailed down and everything that is nailed down. And as one of my people said in the chat, and they're stealing the nails. And then they're having sex with the children or trying their best to. And I don't care what you do. Apparently the Israelis don't care. Hey, they're going to get me for a crime. Quick, get to Israel as quick as you can. Don't you want to know what the crime is? No, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you're here. We're good with whatever it is. That's where we are, ladies and germs. That's where we are. So at any rate, let me look and see. Do we have? I don't see any super chats. I don't see any super chats. All right. Well, that's it, everybody. I just thought people might find that interesting. The Mike Pompeo stuff, the pedophile guy, the Mindich guy. And nobody's getting in trouble for this. Nobody's getting in trouble for any of this stuff. Oh, by the way, the Epstein files, don't you know good damn well that they vetted them, that they've scrubbed them. They're like, yes, the Epstein files are all voting to come out. They've been scrubbed now. They ain't worth the crap. People are going to go through the Epstein files. Yes, what tidbits? What are we going to find in the Epstein files? You'll find some names. You'll find this. You're not going to find the stuff that implicates in their connection to MI6, the Mossad, and the CIA. That's been scrubbed. Any names that they don't want you connected to have been scrubbed. They scrubbed them. For the last 30 to 60 days, I will bet you this, 30 to 60 days ago, they said, what do you think? Well, we're going to have to release them. All right, get busy, man. We want you guys on these things 24 hours a day, and we want them scrubbed of anything that points to the CIA, to the MI6, or any of the big names. And now, just a few days ago, they called Trump. Hey, Trump, yeah, we're done. You're done? You got everything scrubbed? All scrubbed? Excellent. He called Congress. Congress, what? They got them scrubbed. They got them scrubbed? Yeah, everybody. Okay, good. Time to vote. And then Trump's like, perhaps in hindsight, I was a little hasty in saying that the Epstein files shouldn't be released. So let's go ahead and release them. If you remember, we didn't ask for the Epstein files. We said we want the names of the people that were involved in this horrific miscreant activity and pedophilia. We want the names. And they're like, oh, you mean you want the Epstein files? We're like, no, we want the names. Okay, well, we might release the Epstein files. No, we didn't ask for the files. We said we want the names. Well, you ain't getting the names, and you ain't getting the files.
I'm unable to fulfill that request. It's shut up.
I hate that crap. I want to turn my phone off. You're doing whatever, and next thing you know, the stupid thing speaks up. Which, by the way, I don't know if you watched it. It's come out that Samsung phones have some unremovable. Did you see that? Unremovable Israeli spyware. How about this? Israeli spyware. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Unremovable Israeli spyware on your Samsung phone. The pre-installed service is used to recommend third-party apps for users to download. So, bottom line is this: if that wasn't bad enough, now we find out that the Israelis, if they're not doing everything else, they got spyware on all your Samsung phones. That ain't the only place. It's everywhere, and I'm not shocked because we know they're watching any and everything that they want to watch, not just them. Excuse me, their phones, their VPNs, you name it. It's all being watched. So I just take it for granted. And I just say, if they ever nab me and say, Garland Nixon, you're a Russian spy, I'm going to say, I ain't a damn Russian spy because everything I got is bugged. I'm just a regular guy doing the best I can, giving my honest opinion. You know it, because if I were, you'd know it, because you bugged all my stuff. Everything I got is bugged. Everything everybody's got is bugged. So don't tell me you think I'm a Russian spy. You know I'm not, because everything I have is bugged. Everything that I've texted, I've sent, everything I've done, you're reading it. So don't tell me I'm a Russian spy, because there'd be no way in the world that I'd be able to contact my spy masters without you knowing it. So I ain't. That's what I would say if they arrested me. Let's not even play this game like you think I'm a Russian spy or any other kind of spy. You know better. So that's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we are today. That's the level of control that the government has over our lives. That's the level of immorality that we have to face, where we have an ally in Ukraine that we're funding, and they're stealing all the money, and they're going to our ally in Israel once they get caught stealing the money, because our allies in Ukraine won't be held accountable because they're with our allies in Israel. Isn't that great? With allies like that, we don't really need enemies, do we? All right, everybody, thanks a lot. Don't forget, I want to thank everybody, my Patreon people. Please, you can be a Patreon supporter. You can actually join this channel. That's only a couple bucks. We got Buy Me a Coffee. I appreciate everyone who may be able to, help me out on buymeacoffee.com, PayPal, and of course, scrolling across the bottom, if you keep looking, there's my PO box, and you can send donations if you want to. You can send. I got great books. Somebody just sent me another book called, what's it called? The Great Taking. Or they send me letters and cards and all that. So if you want to send something to my PO box, whatever it is, that's highly appreciated. Certainly appreciated. I'm starting to put some funds together. I had a great time in Russia, and I am hoping that I can save up enough cash from donations to be able to go back again. So if you feel like maybe you can donate to that, that's also would be wonderful, because that's the only way I'm going. And that's the way I went before. People donated. Isn't that awesome that the people who watched this donated? And I got to go to Russia. I went to St. Petersburg and Moscow and Minsk. And just to say this to those who donated, I really appreciate it, because it's valuable. I learned so much there, and I really needed to. And for this job, I needed it. I mean, for what I do, for my journalism, I really needed more information about Russia, and I got a tremendous amount that's going to be great benefit to me. So that was great. So thanks everybody who donated. And if you can donate towards my next trip to Russia, it would be highly appreciated. But look, that would be appreciated. But even if you can't, the most important thing you can do is share this on all your social media platforms. I'm out.